يا راغبا في كل علم نافع.
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، ومكارم الأخلاق ندرسها معا، أدب وتربية على الإحسان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Islamic education, level 3, and the etiquettes to be observed. And one of the physical etiquettes that we need to observe after having the foundations clear with the adab, with the etiquettes with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, is the etiquettes of sleeping and waking up. So human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for them that this is how they live. They sleep and they wake up. The Prophet alayhi salatu wasallam taught us certain things to be said, certain etiquettes to be observed, and therefore part of exalting the way the Prophet ﷺ, that we would follow these manners and these etiquettes, and the person would get rewards for it, and plus it has its effect in our life because this is part of the etiquettes to be taught and for us to learn and to adopt. One of which is that from the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ is to sleep after Salatul Isha right away, unless there's a reason why and a benefit that why you are staying up late. And the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ that he used to love and like ﷺ, that he would delay the Isha. Prophet ﷺ used to delay the Isha. وَكَانَ يَكْرَهُ النَّوْمَ قَبْلَهَا وَالْحَدِيثَ بَعْدَهَا. That he ﷺ used to dislike sleeping before Isha, and he would dislike speaking after Isha. Unless, as it's mentioned also in the hadith, unless he's sitting with his family, having a guest, seeking knowledge. These are permissible ways, so there's something to be done, not just staying up late for no reason. So it has to be something benefiting that a person is doing, with, of course, the condition that a person doesn't miss the Fajr prayer and also the Qiyamul Layl or the night prayer. And the Prophet ﷺ, his sleep is the most perfect way. As Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he said he had the most just way of sleeping, and this is where he would sleep 1/3 of the night, and which is, as the hours, the way that it's calculated, like when they divide the hours between Maghrib or between Isha and Fajr, and then this is 12 hours from Maghrib to Fajr, 12 units of time, and 1/3 or 2/3 of that is 8 hours. 2/3 of that is 8 hours, not the 8 hours with 60 minutes that we have, but 2/3 of the night. So again, and it's mentioned in Surah Al-Muzammil that the Prophet ﷺ would sleep half of the night and then pray 1/3 of the night and then sleep 1/6 of the night. And this is the norm of the Prophet ﷺ. Also, one of these etiquettes is to take the means that would help the person to wake up for Salatul Fajr. The Prophet ﷺ, when he was traveling, especially when a person is tired or a special thing happened, he kept late or something like this. So he would then he said ﷺ one time when they were traveling, "Man yakla'una al-layla," who would then wake us up tonight for Fajr, so that we don't oversleep for Salatul Fajr. So Bilal radiallahu anhu, he said, "I will, O Prophet of Allah." And it happened that Bilal radiallahu anhu also overslept. And the benefit of that is that we get to learn part of the deen, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, when He caused the Prophet ﷺ one night to sleep till the sun was risen, so that He teach the ummah what to do then. And He said, "Man nama an salatin aw nasiya fa salatu hina yadhkuruha." Whoever overslept or forgot a salah, then his salah is once he remembers it. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he woke up, they moved from their place and they made their salah. So it's a way of tashri'ah. It's a way of teaching the ummah what to do if they overslept. But this is not the norm. So taking the means to wake up for the salah. Also, one of these etiquettes, which again we follow the text, revelation from Allah, Quran, hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that the Prophet ﷺ used to say, وَأَغْلِقُوا الْأَبْوَابِ, close your doors, وَاذْكُرُوا اسْمَ اللَّهِ, say Bismillah when you're closing your door, فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ لَا يَفْتَحُ بَابًا مُغْلَقًا. Shaitan does not open a door that is closed. So don't leave your doors open and then you think that everything will be fine. No, close your doors, and while you're closing it, you say Bismillah. And the same thing when it comes to turning any fire in the house. And one time there was a house in Al-Madinah got burned. So when the Prophet ﷺ was, got to know this, he said, "Inna هذه النار إنما هي عدو لكم." This fire is an enemy to you. فإذا نمتم فأطفئوها عنكم. When you sleep, put it off. And he said, أطفئوا المصابيح بالليل إذا رقدتم. Turn off the lights, and the masabih used to be from fire. So you turn the fire off. If you have fire in the house, then you turn it off so that it doesn't cause fire in the house. So any fire in the house, that should be turned off before you go to sleep. This is what the Prophet ﷺ said for people to do. Also to make wudu before going to sleep. Especially if a person is going to sleep in state of janaba, that means he has to take a shower. At least take or make wudu so that you would lesser the level of al-janaba. So the Prophet ﷺ said, إِذَا أَتَيْتَ مَضْجَعَكَ فَتَوَضَّأْ وُضُوءَكَ لِلصَّلَاةِ. If you go to sleep, if you want to go to bed, then make your wudu as if you're making wudu for the salah, then sleep on your right side. This is how you initially start your sleep, on the right side. You can move afterwards, but make your first part, that when you first go into bed, that you sleep on your right side, even for a moment, and before that you would make the wudu. And by the way, that requires for a person to be patient with oneself. If you're patiently doing this every day, then it becomes your norm. It might be difficult in the beginning, but once you get used to it, you won't be able to allow yourself to go to sleep unless you would make wudu. And for someone being in state of janaba, it's best that he would take a shower, of course, and to make ghusl. But as the Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked, would one of us, should he sleep while in state of janaba? He says, yes, لِيَتَوَضَّأْ ثُمَّ لِيَنَمْ. Make wudu and then sleep. Till then he can take the shower or ghusl later. One of the etiquettes to be observed is, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا أَوَى أَحَدُكُمْ إِلَى فِرَاشِهِ فَلْيَأْخُذْ دَاخِلَةَ إِزَارِهِ فَلْيَنْفُضْ بِهَا فِرَاشَهِ. If one of you want to go to sleep, take the tip of your izar, if you're wearing izar, the lower sheet, and wipe or beat the bed with it to remove things that might be on the bed. And if you don't have an izar on, just clean the bed with your hand or with whatever, with a piece of cloth, and say Bismillah. Because فَإِنَّهُ لَا يَعْلَمُ مَا خَلَفَهُ بَعْدَهُ عَلَى فِرَاشِهِ. Because you don't know what happened or what might be on your bed. Doesn't have to be something physical. Allah knows best. So one of the etiquettes is, before you go to sleep, you just one time like at ease with it. It's not like you're doing a major job there, but just one way or so, 3 times, just wiping what's on the bed with your hand or a piece of cloth or your own izar. Also, one of these etiquettes is that the Prophet ﷺ كان إذا أوى إلى فراشه, every night the Prophet ﷺ, whenever he goes to bed, this is on the bed, he would get his palms together like this, and he would blow in it, and he would recite قُلْ وَاللَّهُ أَحَدْ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. And this blowing of the recitation is there, and 3 times also in some of the narrations. And he would do this, and then he would wipe his face, his head, and what comes from his body afterwards. Starts with the head and the face, and then what comes afterwards. He does this 3 times, reciting the 3 surahs 1 time and wipes, then recite them again 3 times, and then he wipes. Like 3 times he would do that, alayhi salatu wasalam, when he would go to bed. Another etiquette is that he would say the adhkar, certain things to be said while on bed before a person goes to sleep. As the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he said to Abu Hurairah, if you go to sleep, recite Ayatul Kursi. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum, till the end of the verse. So even if you read it, if you don't know how to say it, read it from a book or from a tablet before you go to sleep. This is something to be said. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that you will have protector from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a shaitan would not approach you till the morning if you recite Ayatul Kursi. And the story of Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu with the jinn that came to take some of the sadaqah. So this is something to be observed. Never to miss Ayatul Kursi before going to sleep. And there are adhkar, many of them. And do the best you can if you get a book of adhkar, authentic narrations from the Prophet ﷺ, to observe and to say the things to be said before going to sleep. بسمك ربي وضعت جنبي وبك أرفع إن أمسكت نفسي فارحمها وإن أرسلتها فاحفظها بما تحفظ به عبادك الصالحين. By your name, O my Lord, I put my side, and by your name I lift my side, meaning getting up. If you take my soul, then have mercy upon it. And if you leave it, meaning that you would give me life after the sleep, then protect it by what you protect your righteous slaves. So this is how to do it. And as we said, you start with sleeping on the right side. And if you move afterwards, that's fine, but it's disliked to sleep on one's stomach. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he saw someone sleeping on one's stomach in the masjid, he said, مَا لَكَ وَلِهَذِهِ النَّوْمَةِ, what's the matter with you? Why are you sleeping like this? هَذِهِ نَوْمَةٌ يَكْرَهُهَا اللَّهُ. This is a way of sleep that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hates. So don't sleep on your stomach. This is something that the Prophet ﷺ forbade. If a person, while sleeping, he is not paying attention and he ends up being like this, there's no harm on him. But once a person gets used to it, he would not allow himself to do such a thing. And this is some of these etiquettes. Some of the etiquettes of waking up is that the person wipe the sleep from his hands with his eyes, as the Prophet ﷺ, he would do that when he wakes up. He would make the dhikr, Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa alayhi nushur, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, saying this dhikr, that the one that gave us life after he made us die. Because sleeping is a minor death, and to observe that, and to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the resurrection. Use the siwak. When a person wakes up from sleep, the smell of his mouth will change. So the Prophet ﷺ would use the siwak to clean his mouth. And if a person use any means to clean his mouth and his teeth, this is something that the Prophet ﷺ would do that. And to keep, of course, the siwak fresh so that it does what it's supposed to be for. Washing the hands before you put it in a container if you're making wudu from a container. So if you're making the wudu from tap water, then you open the tap and you wash it. But if you're making it from a container that has water, a bucket for example, before you dip your hand inside, wash your hand outside the bucket. As the Prophet ﷺ, he said, إِذَا اسْتَيْقَظَ أَحَدُكُم مِّن نَوْمِ, if one of you get up from his sleep, then let him wash his hand before he makes it enter into the container. He would wash it 3 times. And he said, فَإِنَّ أَحَدَكُمْ لَا يَدْرِي أَيْنَ بَاتَتْ يَدُهُ, because one of you doesn't know where his hand has been during the night. Someone says, but I know, I have a camera that sees where my hands is. It doesn't matter. You don't still know, because it doesn't have to be something physical. Just follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. This is only for those who make wudu from a container. Also the Prophet ﷺ, he said, if one of you wake up, he should blow his nose, meaning that you would, as if when you're making wudu, you get some water in your nose and you blow your nose 3 times. Why? فَإِنَّ الشَّيْطَانَ يَبِيتُ عَلَى خَيَاشِيمِهِ, because the shaitan, he sleeps, he spends the night on one's nose. So to remove that. To wash the hands and the faces, also if a person wants to go back to sleep. You know, of course, it's always perfect to make wudu at all times, but there's a narration where the Prophet ﷺ, if he gets up at night and relieve himself, then he would wash his face and hands, and then he would go to sleep. Also, one of the etiquettes, especially with spouses, and we have the night prayer, from the sunnah that if one gets up for the night prayer and he makes salah, is to wake up his spouse. And the Prophet ﷺ said a great reward. Rahimallahu rajulan, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have mercy upon a man, that he get up at night and he makes salah and he wakes up his wife. And if she refuses, فَنَضَحَ فِي وَجْهِهَا الْمَاءِ, he would sprinkle water on her face, helping her to get up to make the night prayer. And may Allah have mercy upon a woman that she get up at night and she makes salah, and then she wakes up her husband to do the same thing, and if he refuses, that she would sprinkle water on his face. So also helping one another in matters of ibadah and worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is some of the etiquettes that needs to be observed, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who follow the Prophet alayhi salatu wassalam. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
يا راغبا في كل علم نافع،
ينمو العلم ويتقدم بتقنياته ومجالاته، ومعه نطور أدواتنا في تقديم العلم الشرعي. أكاديمية زاد.
زاد أكاديمية ينبوعها صاف ليروي غلة الظمآن، ومكارم الأخلاق ندرسها معا، أدب وتربية على الإحسان. بشرى لنا زاد أكاديمية للعلم كالأزهار في البستان.